Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Q, and in this video I'll be looking at the Tier 7 Tech Tree Japanese fighter, the Ki-84 Hayate. Hello there, and on the tarmac outside my hangar is the Ki-84, and this saw operational service in the Imperial Japanese Army Air Force from 1943 to 1945, and it was considered by the Allies to be a formidable opponent, featuring heavy weaponry, excellent manoeuvrability, and pretty decent altitude performance as well. And that's reflected in the game too. The weaponry is heavy, the manoeuvrability is very good, and the altitude performance for a turn fighter, which I would consider this to be, is excellent. Handsome looking aircraft as well. So what we'll do now is we'll go and take a look at the numbers for this aircraft and all of the other Tier 7 fighters. If you don't want to look at a spreadsheet, use the link below to skip ahead to another part of this video. Here's the spreadsheet featuring all of the Tier 7 fighters. Well, your sport of choice. There are 15 of them, as you can see as I scroll along here, although 7 of those are premium fighters. If you don't know how this spreadsheet works, use the link in the description below to a short instructional video that will tell you all you need to know. To business then, and business means gun armament, and it's really good news straight away. We have a rating of 28 and a cumulative DPS of 470, and this is best in class. We're going to see in a minute or two that this aircraft is pretty manoeuvrable, and this is a rare combination, a highly manoeuvrable aircraft with best-in-class weaponry. The aircraft that comes closest to it in terms of weapons performance is a very different style of plane, and here it is. It's the British jet, the Meteor, which is a high-energy fighter, and that has a rating of 27 and a cumulative DPS of 460. A couple of others to watch out for. The A7M, the Imperial Japanese Air Service aircraft, has a rating of 25, 440. DPS, cumulative DPS, and also the Yak-3T. Somewhat different weapons groups here, but still a rating of 25, although the DPS is not as good. So what have we got on the Ki-84? We've got a pair of 30mm cannons to begin with, 160 DPS each, rate of fire 200, quite quick, but this range, and this is something you will have to note, it's really short at 1903 feet. That's going to affect how you play this aircraft, which I'll explain in a moment or two. Auto aim angle, that's the distance you can be off target by, and the game will correct your aim and you'll still hit your target. Is 3, which is pretty good for cannons, although I will say that most of the cannons are carrying similar figures. Some are worse. There's the Yak-3T's cannons 2.5 degrees, and the Spitfire 16 and Spitfire 9 also 2.5 degrees, but as you scroll your eyes along, I think the worst figure here is actually the B109G Gustav, with its 30mm cannon, but only an auto aim angle of 2. That's pretty tricky. Auto aim angles on machine guns, such as the Spitfires are carrying, are generally better, but there are only 4 here, so not much better. Dispersion angle though, and dispersion is the way your bullets spread out, or shells spread out as they leave the muzzle of your machine guns or cannons. 0.65 is a bad figure. You're going to have to work on the accuracy of these weapons. And overheat time is tricky. You're going to have to pulse fire 4 seconds, not to everybody's taste, but if you can manage that, then you'll be fine with these weapons. It's supplemented by a pair of 20mm cannons, really excellent, 75 DPS each, 400 rate of fire, range slightly better at 2100 feet, and a slightly better auto aim angle of 3.5 degrees, really helpful, and a dispersion angle which is much better, 0.5, and an overheat time of 5 seconds, 1 second better. You're going to have to be careful with the weaponry. It's very easy to overheat if you're not careful, but provided you can manage these, then if you are on target, whatever you hit is going to really know about it. However, with this short-range weaponry, there are plenty of other aircraft, certainly fighters in this comparison, which are going to be able to do damage to you before you can start damaging them. So you don't want to go head-on with anything if you can avoid it, even the more lightly armed fighters. And there's another reason for that, as we will see when we talk about survivability. Rating is 6. This is 3rd best in class in theory, but it's more important to go down to the worst in class figures, and you can see it's actually worst in class. And 2nd worst in class survivability of 280 hit points and damage resistance of only 46. The fire resistance is a woeful 30. Now, there are worse aircraft in this comparison, but this is bad enough to probably force you to carry a fire extinguisher rather than the first aid dressing package, and you may very well need to invest a couple of valuable pilot skill points in either or both of fire resistance and firefighter skills. Come to airspeed. Well, at first glance, particularly because there are high energy fighters over here, which is where the green is appearing, the Mustangs and the two jets, it doesn't look as if it's particularly quick, but if a closer examination is fruitful, and we can see amongst the turn fighters, it's at least as fast, if not faster, than most of them. So you're not going to be outclassed for speed against your turn fighters, which is good. However, you have only got 6 seconds of boost duration. This is not a pursuit aircraft. The boost maximum speed is only 404, which actually is one of the worst in the game at this class. In fact, it is the worst in class. So again, not a pursuit aircraft, but enough speed to be able to be competitive with the turn fighters. Obviously, you'll have to be paying attention to being zoomed upon by the high energy fighters and hope to be able to use your agility, which we'll discuss in a moment, to turn on them quickly enough to be able to damage them as they try and get away from you. And talking of that maneuverability, 84, there are more maneuverable aircraft at base. The Imperial Japanese Air Service aircraft, the A7M Repu, for instance, the two Yaks here, the Yak 3 and the Yak 3RD. But then you're into aircraft where you at least are very close to the base figures for maneuverability. And in practical terms, if you put a maneuverability on this build on this aircraft, the chances are you will be the most maneuverable aircraft in the game. And even if you're not, if you come across, for instance, a specialized A7M Repu, you do have a tactic that you can use against it. And that tactic is revealed by the altitude performance. Now, again, at first blush, it doesn't look as if it's particularly good when you are including in this comparison the high energy fighters, which generally can fly at higher altitudes, so they can dive on opponents. However, it is significantly better than all of the turn fighters. You can get above them all, and that gives you an attack posture against them. Get above them, dive on them, hit them really hard with your weaponry. You will probably do criticals. You will probably impair their maneuverability. You can then use yours to finish them off. Just bear in mind, the dive speed is okay without being fantastic. Well, that's what you'd expect in a turn fighter, and the climb rate is pretty poor, so don't try and chase aircraft that are distance from you and climbing away from you. You will find yourself potentially stalling out, and then you may find that they turn on you and say, "Thank you very much. I appreciate your donation of your hit points." Just drop down to worst in class figures. Well, we've already talked about survivability. This is a fragile aircraft. You need to try and do everything you can to avoid being shot, which to me implies maneuverability build. Airspeed, we've already mentioned the boost, is not particularly good at 6 seconds, but that's not surprising, and the boost maximum speed is poor. Watch out for roll rate. Things like the LA9RD will roll away from you, potentially, if the pilot knows what he's doing, and you may not be able to keep up with that. It's a fairly sluggish roll rate. So where does all that position this aircraft? Well, it's designed to dominate a central sector, and its ideal environment is the central repair base, where it can keep on getting repairs and picking off enemies as they come in unwarily. You're probably not going to be able to, with this speed, go about a 5-sector map and visit everywhere. It's possible, but you're not likely to do it. At most, you'll probably try and defend and dominate a central sector and perhaps one other sector of importance. And with the correct build, you should be able, provided you fly well, use your altitude performance against the turn fighters, to do that job extremely well. Okay, that's enough about the numbers. Let's go and see how I've set the aircraft up. Here we are back on the tarmac outside the hangar with the Ki-84 Hayate, and the first thing to note about my aircraft is that it's specialised, which means I have all of the equipment and consumable slots available. However, when you first get it, let's go and see what would be missing. We've got no forward-firing weapon slot at all. That will never become available, so you can't do anything with DPS on the guns or the range of the guns, anything useful like that. What you do have are 4 equipment slots, 1 for the cockpit, 2 for the airframe, and 1 for the engine. However, 1 on the airframe and 1 on the engine will be missing when you are flying this aircraft stock, and that will impact its usability quite a lot. You have 5 consumable slots, 1 for the airframe, 2 for the airframe, 1 for the cockpit, 1 for the engine, and 1 for the forward-firing weapon. However, of these, again, 1 will be missing off the airframe and 1 will be missing off the engine when flying stock. Now let's pop the aircraft into specialist configuration and see what I've done with this. I'm sure it will come as no surprise to see that I have a gun sight in the cockpit slot. The other choices are, well, the only other choice is cockpit armour, which I reserve for probably bombers and ground attacks. I don't think it's that relevant to fighters, heavy fighters or multi-roles. And besides which, we want to improve the accuracy of these weapons. We already know the 30mm cannons have got large dispersion, so we want to work on the accuracy. Now here, as far as bonus characteristics are concerned, this is an ultimate level piece of equipment, so I have all 3 bonus characteristics selected, and I've opted to go for increasing the chances of causing a fire and causing critical damage, which will be useful if you are zoomed by a high energy fighter that's then trying to get away from you. If you can, for instance, set it on fire, or you can destroy perhaps its control surfaces and make it wiggle less, that will help. However, this is a setup I'd normally use on low DPS fighters, and with the other bonus characteristics that are available that I haven't selected, you can do something I think that potentially is better with this high DPS aircraft, high DPS weaponry, and that is select the extra 8% accuracy that's on offer from the 2 bonus characteristics towards the bottom there. And if I were reassembling this aircraft right now, that is probably what I would do. I may even select the pilot's resistance to injuries as well. If not, then I would keep the 10% chance of inflicting critical damage. If we look at the airframe and the engine slots next, you can see that I have gone for a manoeuvrability build. Here we've got the lightweight wing frame and we've got the lightweight power unit. We just look at the lightweight wing frame. Again, it's ultimate level equipment. We've got extra roll manoeuvrability and then more aircraft HP. I probably wouldn't select that in truth, and 1% cruise speed, which is neither here nor there, frankly. So on here, I would reassemble, keep the roll manoeuvrability that I've currently got, 3%, and then add in the 1% roll manoeuvrability and the 2%, the 1% yaw manoeuvrability and the 2% roll manoeuvrability at the bottom there. We'll come back to the airframe in a moment, but because we're talking about manoeuvrability, on the lightweight power unit, also ultimate level equipment, I've got the yaw manoeuvrability bonus characteristics, and probably if I was reassembling, I'd take off the acceleration and just stick on the 2 cruise speeds, but this is not going to make a massive difference. Now, ultimate reinforced skin, why have I got this on? Is it because the aircraft is fragile? Well, the aircraft is fragile, so this helps, but it's actually all about trying to avoid a reduction in manoeuvrability. Now, the reinforced airframe and particularly the polished skin, which I think is the other alternative that you would consider, do reduce manoeuvrability. For me, that's a no-no, so I don't select either of these. If you want a bit more speed getting about at the cost of some manoeuvrability, then the polished skin is your best choice here. As far as the bonus characteristics are concerned, the tolerance to damage from AA guns is very nice. The maximum speed with boost activated, probably not. Looking at that, I would probably drop the 5% tolerance to damage from AA guns and put on the 5% tails resistance to critical damage and the 5% wings resistance to critical damage. Those are the bonus characteristics at top and bottom of that panel there. As far as consumables are concerned, I think this aircraft, with its low fire resistance, only 30 there, demands that you put on a fire extinguisher. If you're going to take a chance and put on what I think is the other old best choice, the first aid dressing package, then I think you're going to have to expend at least 1, if not 2 skill points on the following skills. Looking ahead to pilot skills here, fire resistance and firefighter. In a tight spot, you will welcome 10 seconds of extra manoeuvrability, so that's the pneumatic control assist. And you don't want your control surfaces damaged, or to remain damaged if you can avoid it, so the emergency control system is mounted in the second slot here. Normally I would put on engine cooling for most of my aircraft, however this aircraft is not quick and is not a pursuit plane under any circumstances, so for once I'm not putting engine cooling on, which confers the benefit of 10 extra seconds of boost when you have at least 1 second's worth available. Here I think it's more important to keep the aircraft manoeuvring, and a damaged engine is bad news, and I put on the engine restart. However, as I say, if you want that extra 10 seconds, or you do want to be able to chase something for a little while at least, then the engine cooling is your friend here. In the forward firing weapon slot, I don't use gold ammunition, so as ever I've selected universal ammunition for improved damage output. So, time to turn our attention to pilot skills. How you configure your pilot is going to depend on whether, I think, you carry a fire extinguisher or a first aid dressing kit. If the latter, I've already mentioned that you're going to need at least one of these 2 skills here, fire resistance or firefighter. At least that's in my opinion, and indeed both would be valuable, but they consume a couple of important skill points. I've got a fire extinguisher on, so I've gone for my normal approach to a highly manoeuvrable aircraft. Particularly one that's specialised and has got high-level equipment on it. These are all ultimate pieces of equipment, as you've seen. Therefore, I prioritise aerodynamics expert. Aerobatics expert next for more manoeuvrability, 2% here. Then it's important to improve the accuracy of the guns, so Marksman 1 would be my next choice. Now here I've got Engine Guru 1, which is a good thing to have, although this aircraft is slow, so it's not going to have a massive impact on the ability of the aircraft to get about the map. But what I could do, and in fact probably what I should do here, is take off this fire resistance skill, take off this Engine Guru 1 skill, and improve the accuracy again by putting on Marksman 2. And then I would probably build towards Engine Guru 1 next, but then when I got to a third skill point, I might very well take Engine Guru 1 off again and put on Resilience, and thereafter I would then start building up Engine Guru 1 and Engine Guru 2 again, but that's a long way in the future and a lot of grinding. Right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to take a look at the effect of the build as I currently have it on this aircraft's base characteristics. And what we're looking at here is the base build of the Ki-84 Hayate as was shown in the previous spreadsheet, but here is the post-build figures slotted in alongside, and then the important column is G here where we can see the differences. Now, first off, let's talk about weapons. My build currently has a 19% improvement in accuracy, and I think accuracy works to reduce the dispersion figure, that is the way the bullets or shells spread out from the muzzle of your machine gun or your cannon. And therefore I've calculated 19% brings this 0.5 dispersion angle down to 0.405, and this horrible dispersion angle of 0.65 down to 0.5265. And the improvement, as you can see, is shown there. If you maximize the potential for accuracy, that is, you have Marksman 1, Marksman 2, ultimate level equipment, which is calibrated to the maximum, and you pick off the bonus characteristics that are available, I believe you can get 34% improvement in accuracy, which is huge. And the effect there would be to bring the dispersion down to 0.33 and on the 20mm cannons and 0.43 on the 30mm cannons. That would be very healthy and very useful. I'm looking forward to actually getting Engine Guru 2 and perhaps trying this out. Can you improve the auto angle? I'm not sure. However, Marksman 2 has an interesting comment on it saying that it improves the accuracy while flying at moving targets, and I speculate that means that your auto angle is increased. I don't know for sure, but yes, Marksman 2 is a good thing to have. So I look forward to having the maximum accuracy build, but that's a fair way in the future. It's going to take a lot of skill points and quite a bit of grinding. What else has happened? Well, the survivability has gone down by 12, so in my build, I definitely don't want to get shot in this aircraft, although the damage resistance has actually gone up by 1. Sorry, the hit points have gone down by 12. That probably won't make a lot of difference, but it really does ram home the point that I just made. You don't want to get hit in this aircraft. Make sure you avoid being shot. Airspeed, some small reductions here. The rating's gone down by 1, the cruise has gone down by 4 miles an hour, and the maximum boost speed has gone down by 6 miles an hour. Well, it's already slow, so I don't regard these as significant impacts, but some of you might be wincing at that. However, the star turn here is the improvement in maneuverability. The rating's gone up by a massive 15%, but if we look under the covers slightly more, it means that there's a 0.8% That's 0.8 second improvement in the time to turn 360 degrees, and I've also improved that rather horrible roll rate to something quite useful, and this will stop LA's, certainly unspecialized LA9 RDs, from being able to roll away from me quite so easily. And there's more to come. That equipment that I've got is not fully calibrated at the moment, so these figures will go up, and I could pick bonus characteristics which would also help this figure. You're going to be able to get this up quite significantly past 100 if you really concentrate on it. And we just had an odd loss of 2 miles an hour on the altitude performance. So that's the effect of my build on this aircraft's base characteristics. What we really want to see now is how the aircraft performs in battle, so let's go and do that. The map for this battle is Plateau. It's the decisive hour variant, and straight away I can say that this 5-sector map is very good for light fighters because it doesn't have significant strategic sectors that bombers, heavy fighters, ground attackers would like to be going for. And what we have is a line of garrisons through the centre here. The central one is tactically important because it allows easy access to the other sectors. 2 make weights here, the garrisons on the axis. And then on the other axis we have 2 repair air bases. These are strategically important, but not as much as if they were central. And what you can do here, of course, is spawn, which will perhaps allow you to attack the enemy garrison more easily. Get a new aircraft for the same tier if you lose your current aircraft, or get full repairs for your aircraft. When we look at the order of battle, we can see I'm top tier in my Ki-84, and I have for company a Spitfire 5 DB605, the captured German Spitfire, or Messerschmitt as some people like to call it. On the enemy team we have a potentially extremely dangerous heavy, the VB10, agile and fast with good weaponry, and another Spitfire 5 DB605. And the way to win this battle is to make sure you hold your garrison and your local airbase, and also try and hold the centre for as long as possible and use that as a platform to attack the enemy's sectors. And let's see how this battle transpired. So, this is a World of Warplanes replay file. I'm afraid you're going to have to put up with the reticle being off target a little bit on this occasion. Do apologise for that. So strategically, the airbase off to the right is important to us. That's where I'm going to go first, provided I avoid a ram from one of my teammates. Now we begin to climb slowly, and of course this aircraft does have fairly good altitude performance. My teammate in the Spitfire has chosen to go to the same location. He's climbing steadily as well, but I've got plenty of room to get above him if I wish to. But you'll see that I do in a moment. Spotted the first heavy. Always on the lookout for the second one, but on this occasion he doesn't become visible. And now we can start to help my teammates kill this aircraft. Okay, so assistance there. There's the second heavy. Looks like there's going to be a heavy shoot that down, so I now turn my attention to the air defense light fighters. That's the first of them down. And that's the second of them down, and you can see this weaponry is really quite good. And that's the third of them down, and that secures the sector. Now we can turn my attention to sorting out the enemy aircraft that have flown into this sector. J4M, quite a difficult aircraft to hit, but it's not manoeuvring very well at the moment because I've managed to take out both its wings. Now I need to address the multi-roll. Fortunately it wasn't coming for me. I kill it, but unfortunately it also kills the Spitfire. Now the J4M has very slowly made a turn and is coming back. You mustn't go head on with that, very heavy weaponry, and in fact you don't really want to go on head on with anything with this because of the short range of particularly the 13mm cannons. But having got behind it, it should now be easy to dispose of it. We've cleared out this sector. I've got enough health not to worry about repairs. We're 2 sectors to 1 down. The enemy hasn't taken its local garrison, so that's where we're going to go next and try and secure that and redress the imbalance. Here the speed is a factor. Can't get here very quickly, unfortunately. Now 3 sectors to 1 down, so it's really important we take this sector, otherwise we're going to start falling behind a long way very quickly. And the bomb's low enough for me to shoot, and as you can see I've got no worries about shooting this PE2 M82. Tier 6 bomber, but it falls to this weaponry very quickly indeed. And there's another one which I can shoot at, and do. Put that one down. We're beginning to turn this sector towards us. Now looking for further targets. And my teammates either destroy a ground target or an aerial target for me, and we have this sector. Now we need to do a little bit of defence, self-preservation, and also we don't want to lose either of these 2 sectors that we've just taken. Otherwise, as I say, we're going to fall behind and possibly catastrophically so. So the Yak-9U flew past me again, so I eliminate it. My teammate eliminates another aircraft. Ground attacker is coming in, but then I spot a threat off to my right, which is a multi-roll, probably a Focke-Wulf, yes it is. And more devastating fire takes that out, and at this point I decide I need to leave. Probably leave everything to my teammates. The Spitfire's in here defending the garrison. I've got to rely on him to keep a hold of it whilst I try and take a sector off the enemy. So now we're looking for targets of opportunity here. And even though there's something quite close to me, I suddenly spot that the ground attacker is on very low health, and that will give me a lot of points towards flipping this base. And as you can see, I've only got 40% left to do simply by destroying the ground attacker. preferential target. If you can kill an enemy ground attacker in a sector, it's going to really help you over and above shooting down air defense aircraft or even enemy fighters. My team helped me finish off this sector, and we're now 4-1 up, which is good news because we are actually nearly 100 points behind. Need to try and keep this advantage for as long as possible. Head back to the airfield to protect it. Right at the limit of the range when I open up on the Focke-Wulf. I catch it up quite easily, and now it's getting on for 1100 feet away. It's an easy kill with the accuracy I've got in these guns. Got 19% on the guns. As I've said, you can probably get it up to 34%, and that'd probably be pretty phenomenal guns if you do, although of course there's an opportunity cost. If you get 34% on the guns, you're probably not building for other nice to have attributes. So we're now only 3-2 up. The enemy have taken back their local garrison, so that's where we're going to try and head. Now, need to be a bit careful here. There's a lot of enemy aircraft around, and like all Japanese air fighters, you need to either go in and attack as part of a group, or you need to try and find one-on-ones. Fortunately, this multi-role flies away from his friends. It's the Ak-9 again, which didn't actually hit me, and I'm grateful for that, and now it's an easy kill. Weaving about to make sure I don't get shot by something I don't anticipate, such as this Focke-Wulf. It did get a bead on me. Fortunately didn't land too much of its weaponry. I'm able to now get behind it fairly easily and finish it off with my weaponry. Down it goes. Now I can address the heavies. A little bit of gun management here. That's the first one down. Start to work over the second. With its tail out and also its wing is an easy kill, and that's my 17th kill. So the Hero of the Sky badge goes through. Also a grade 1 fighter, Hero of the Sky badge. Of course, same thing. What you may not have noticed is that's the 17th aerial target I've destroyed, so that was a Marseille medal as well. Now we need to finish off one of these two P-40s down here, and the sector should be ours. The Winged Legend goes through, and in fact, ground target I think was taken out by the ground attacker to flip the sector. Just in time, because we lost another one of our sectors. Now the airfield is under pressure. I need to get back there. There may only be one enemy aircraft in there at the moment, but they only need to do a little bit of work, and we've lost the airfield, and that would be bad news. And again, speed is holding me back here. The one drawback of this aircraft is it is just not quick between sectors. And you could do something about that. I didn't mention it in the pilot skills, but there is a cruise flight skill. You might consider applying that, although it's too precious skill points, and I would hesitate to put that particular skill on. So I've crippled the Focke-Wulf. Remember, I've got 15% extra chance of criticals set up on these guns as it stands, rather than more accuracy. Focke-Wulf goes down, and this is the enemy Spitfire. First time I've seen him. He's not seen me, and whilst he's engaged trying to shoot one of the air defense aircraft, or perhaps one of my teammates, I think has flipped into an XP-55 as I was looking there. I'm able to demolish his aircraft. Pick up repairs. We're now in the end game. Anything that gets killed stays killed. There's the XP-55 over there. It was in a Spitfire underneath the minimap. There you go, just below me. Glimpsed it. So he's taken advantage of the airbase to swap his aircraft into something of which apparently he feels more comfortable in. Avoid the Focke-Wulf. We don't want to take unnecessary damage. Get around behind it easily. Take its engine first shot, but set it on fire as well, and down he goes. So he won't be coming back. And now our bots have managed to take the enemy airfield. We're in very good shape. The game's flipped around. We are now a very healthy 75 points ahead. At this point I see the VB-10. There's also a Yak-9 around, and I think it's the Yak-9 that takes out my engine, so I have to put that back in, and I'm glad I was able to do that, because otherwise conceivably the VB-10 would have got away from me. Instead, he becomes my 20th victim and my ace, and I quickly dispose of the Yak-9U for good measure. Now, had I not had the engine restart bottle in that particular circumstance, it's conceivable the VB10 would have got away from me and then come back and strafed me. Fortunately, by being able to put the engine straight back in, I didn't let him dictate the terms of the engagement. Just picking up final damage at the end of the game. That's enough to flip the last sector and we get superiority right at the death. And that's a very handsome Grade 1 fighter, 20,000 personal points and a whole host of medals. The Ki-84, doing what it's supposed to. Let's take a look at the outcome of this battle, and it's a 5 chevron battle, a Grade 1 fighter, and that grossed 145,681 credits, or silver if you prefer, of which just over 36,000 came from a premium count bonus and another 36,000 from other bonuses. Look in the message box, we can see that there were no expenses, the aircraft wasn't shot down, so there were no repair costs, and I was using prepaid consumables as usual. Look at experience, we can see that the base is 2,540, premium count bonus 1,270. This was the first victory of the day, times 3 as it happens, so you can see the bonus there of over 5,000. And on free experience, we can see that 387 was the base, premium count bonus for 63, coming up to 450 in total. 6 tokens, all for first medals of the day: Akamatsu, Marseille, McCampbell, Hero of the Sky, Winged Legend, and an ace. Nice haul. On the personal score tab, we can see that 2 of the class-specific missions were complete. For destroying aircraft when defending, that was 3/5 complete. That's just enough, 13 points out of 15 in order to get the 5 chevrons. 20,200 personal points with 5 sectors captured, quite busy. 22 aerial targets destroyed, damage 6,556 with 29 criticals coming off the cannons. Didn't lose the aircraft, and we earned 660 capture points. That was split 200 for defending, 460 for attacking. Team score tab, we can see that was easily enough, and this would have been on both teams for first place, both by chevrons and personal points. And there was a very good contribution from the VB10, just a little bit unlucky to come across me right at the end of the battle there. A nice game. That brings me to the end of this look at the Ki-84 Hayate, an agile, hard-hitting aircraft with decent altitude performance. Yes, it's fragile, you do not want to get shot in this plane, but if you can fly it to its strengths, you'll find that tier for tier, it's one of the best sector defence aircraft in the game. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and that if you did, you'll come and see my future content. But until then, this is the Noble Q, signing out.